Just right here.
Thank you. Mandy's here.
Come up here. You can come up here, you know. Oh my God, it's so tiny.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I wrote a little bit about Bill Gasper, the man, the myth, the legend, and personally my favorite of the Hayes High staff, which is why me and my fellow editor-in-chief of this past year, Aniston Weber, and then also one of our photographers, Kristen Neese, nominated him, but they are out of the country on tropical vacation, so here I am. So, Mr. Gasper is currently the director of our annual spring play and the lone captain of our newspaper, yearbook, and our website. This year alone, he has led his journalism students to a second-place finish at the State Kansas Scholastic Press Association competition. He also led us to the first online newspaper All-Kansas honor that USD 489 has ever seen, another All-Kansas ranking for the Indian Call yearbook, and their second consecutive All-American rating, and that's no small feat. On top of this, Gasper has had the honor of producing a 3A, 4A KSPA Student Journalist of the Year, my co-editor-in-chief Aniston, and he himself won the Jackie Engel Award, making him the Advisor of the Year for the state of Kansas. Wow, no wonder we nominated him. And his students like him too, which is always nice. And in a true journalistic fashion, I set out to ask some of those students just how they would describe this wonderful man that they've been working with. Gasper is an inspiration and is always pushing me to do my best in whatever I try to accomplish. He's like a dad or a grandpa, always wants to see you do your best and is always on your side. Another said, he is more than a teacher or a mentor. He genuinely cares like a friend would. And two of my personal favorites, which truly capture his spirit, cynical yet caring, and one of the most outwardly grumpy but inwardly genuine people I've ever met. So it is within his drive, his one of seeing his students succeed, and his personable, genuinely caring style that make him worthy of this month's Best of the Best award. Yeah.
I should say it's because students like Aniston matter. My life a lot. I'm very proud of you, Bill.
Thank you for everything you did for us. Oh, wait, whoa. What's that? I'm going to send you off to eat.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Next is our award recipient for student, and this individual is Critten Sharma, and we have Mrs. Kenda Liker, if she would say a few words.
Critten Sharma's dedication to learning, his drive for challenges, and his motivation to do his best always places him, I believe, in the category of best of the best. Each week, Critten comes to Spark ready to work and improve himself. He started Spark in second grade as a shy learner who wasn't too sure of himself, didn't want to make mistakes. He was unwilling to take risks for the fear that, ooh, it might not be correct. And is it okay, Mrs. Liker? He often asked. But as a fourth grader, he is now one of the more creative thinkers who's willing to fail at tasks because he perceives failure as an avenue for growing and learning something new. He thinks outside the box, and he approaches problems in a variety of ways. Critten never settles. He perseveres, he searches for understanding, whether it be just a small assignment or a large in-depth project. Critten pushes himself to complete neat, higher-level quality work. Not only does Critten have strong work ethic, but his social etiquette and his superior behavior exceed those of others. He is truly the best of the best. Congratulations.
Very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is audience participation. Do we have anybody who would like to speak at this time? Okay. Next item is communications from other organizations. Attached, we have the Early Childhood Connections April Policy Council minutes, the Early Childhood Connections May Directors Report, and the Hayes Recreation Commission of April agenda and minutes. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Thyssen for school spotlights.
We have a number of spotlights. Try to go over them and give them as much attention as possible. We end up having Jana's campaign that was presented to the 7th and 8th grade students at Hayes Middle School, and that was on May 9th. It ends up being a campaign that really it's a national education on violent prevention. It ends up being trying to honor the late Jana Mackey and other victims of gender and relationship violence. Jana Mackey did graduate from Hayes High School in 2000, and her life was tragically ended as a result of domestic violence in 2008. So it's wonderful that that presentation was made to the middle school students just recently. We end up having FFA doing exceedingly well at a national level, which is really just amazing. We have Kurt Viner led students to the 2017 National Land Judging Competition. That was in Oklahoma City. They ended up succeeding in getting first place in land judging. We ended up having Elijah Joy, Dusty Schneider, Brandy Zimmerman, and Jared Kistner, who ended up was part of that team. They also ended up getting, I think it was, Jared Kistner ended up getting first overall in the land judging and fourth in home site judging. So they did exceedingly well. We ended up having Wilson Elementary. The second graders had a Mother's Tea, and that had to do with Mother's Day treat. They've done this actually for 20 years. It's really a very nice activity as far as identifying second graders' baby pictures. They end up having grandparents and dads are invited to the event as well, and they have refreshments, but a nice way to end up celebrating Mother's Day there at Wilson Elementary. We had Hayes High School seniors, signs with KU. Mikyler Audie signed with University of Kansas for being on the cheer squad, and that begins this fall. That's fantastic. Smoky Hills Public Television announced the 2017 PBS Kids Writers Contest winners, and that was O'Laughlin Elementary School second grader Morgan Armbruster, who placed second for the second grade. Morgan's work was titled The Night of Horrors. At Wilson also, the April Showers Bring Mayflowers had a fun activity where the kindergartners were rewarded for positive behavior, and of course something that's fun for elementary kids, for kindergartners, where they get to pick someone that they could end up throwing water balloons at. Well, they ended up having Mr. Joel was one of them that ended up having water balloons thrown at. I think also Anita Sheeby, the principal, and Tara O'Connor, the counselor, but they had a great time. It was a good day for the kindergartners. They just needed to have a little better aim, because I understand not too many hit targets. Wasted water balloons, I guess. Congratulations and farewell to retirees. We ended up having 13. We have Mona Chapman, Janine Luters, Jeannie Michaelis, Joanne Jennings, Janet Affenstranger, Lee Keffer, Renee Rupp, Jeannie Hopman, Diane Pfeiffer, Marianne Shorman, Jill Headland, Lynette Lowe, and James Mages, which we ended up having quite a major. I didn't add this up, but it's really crazy when you look at the years of 9 years clear to 42 years, and the average is probably more around the 20-some years of service for these individuals. So we're very fortunate to have that kind of loyalty and commitment in our Hayes schools. We have Hayes Industrial Technology Association had an undefeated season. Now they've done fantastic. This has to do with their design of electric car, their single passenger electric car. They have done very good over the last couple years, but this is the first year that Mr. Dinkle ended up saying that they actually were undefeated in both the fall and the spring. We ended up having the Touchstone Energy Electro Rally was sponsored by Westar Energy. Noah Glendening placed second. Brent Queningsman won the standard class and set a new course record. And this is Hayes' third standard class championship since 2012. So even though they have done very well in the past, as I said, their whole year was undefeated. They were not beat one time. Students earning Governor's Scholar Award, we end up having Hayes High School seniors, Jeannie Bowser and Brianna Brin. They ended up attending the Kansas Governor's Scholar Program, and that was in Topeka just on May 7th. They ended up having parents there, Principal Marty Straub and Sue Ellen Stinger, who's one of the counselors, was there. They represent the top 1% of their class based on GPA and ACT. Go ahead and try to call back.
Can we call Sarah?
No.
Somebody trying to text him. See what happened.
Hey, am I okay to put you back on speaker? Okay, thanks, Lance.
All right. Lance, are you there?
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay.
They represent 1% of their class. That's based on GPA and also involvement in ACT score. Brianna Brin was also designated a member of the Topeka Capital Journal All-State Academic Team. That was really a prestigious designation because only 30 graduates in Kansas are part of that. They did a fantastic job representing Hayes and Hayes High.
Wonderful. Lots of wonderful things happening. Next on the agenda is the report of superintendent.
My report, I have two items that I had wished to share. One ended up being an update somewhat from Dale Dennis last week. He has kind of a timeline that he had worked through with superintendents to kind of identify where the whole budget or finance plan could end up being. It was a little discouraging because at this particular point in time, the different steps that it has to go through, and there's quite a few of them, could end up putting this to the end of July, even maybe the first week of August. So for everybody to be aware, and I think that's the main thing, it's not a matter of the details of the finance plan because they're not even there yet, I would say, at this point either. But even to get to that point, it's going to be the end of July, most likely, which puts every district in the state putting together the budget. They get it to us. Just an awareness, it's going to be a mad race trying to get this done within less than 2 weeks, probably, of trying to get this in place before school starts. So it's it was kind of a scary timeline that was shared at this point. There's some,
John, did Dale,
yeah, that was Dale Dennis.
did he give any idea as far as where he felt at all, as far as where he felt the budget or the actual finance formulas they're going to use, where it may even lay?
He would say, he seemed more optimistic perhaps that something would be done from legislators. He couldn't even answer where the judges would end up being on this.
Gotcha.
So the concern there ends up being, he came across, Shanna was present as well, but I felt he came across somewhat optimistic that the legislators will get something through, but really unsure as to where, well, actually unaware of where our governor would be, and then also where the judges are. So it's a very awkward situation at this point with the timeline. And that was his best case scenario with timeline, is what he was saying. So it may be the latest Kansas has ever seen as far as getting a financial formula, knowing what our budget is.
Now, last year, we were also worried, right? And didn't we
we were
take some
worried.
steps
Yes.
too? So are we looking at similar measures?
Well,
in the event
one of the
that-
measures that's already been done is a decision was made here at Hayes to go ahead and just arrange to pay the 3 months
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
So that's done. We don't have an answer about the staff during July.
Okay.
But even Dale didn't really talk on that either. When he was asked, it was, we'll have more information later. Last year, it was that issue of only essential personnel could work during July. Well, that hasn't been brought up really again. It may, but he didn't really address that at this point. It's a very similar situation as last
It
year.
was.
It really is. It's very similar. So,
Which is sad.
yeah, only
If
this
I may
one,
comment.
I think, is guaranteed to be a later decision than what last year's was. But depending upon
Hopefully we'll have it before the negotiations.
I'm sorry?
Hopefully, we'll have it
Hopefully
before.
we'll have it before we get to the party in negotiations where we need it.
Oh, yeah. True. So, and that was one. The other item I wanted to share was last week, Tuesday, was able to have the seventh set of 3 meetings with the architectural firm. DLR had put that on. It was a matter of trying to come up with a plan that would be something that they could share with the Board of Education. At this point, they did it went long. I mean, it was a longer meeting than the others with the vision team, the community group. But I would say that they did come up with some possibilities as plans. There was a few details that they were still working on, and even the possibility of having one more meeting. I certainly should know. I had conversations with them today, and I think we will know for sure tomorrow if there's the feeling that there would be another meeting. And if so, it'd be probably early June is when we would probably get that scheduled. So it's getting close. It's just a matter of, you get down to that, there's a lot of details that needed to be worked out and questions that were asked right at the end. So even it's coming along. But I would believe that there will be a presentation to the board in June.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is the financial report from Tracy Kaiser.
The budget continues to be stable as it has been most of this year. Really nothing remarkable at this point. We are about 12.5% under budget as of the end of April. And capital outlay, we are still over $1 million under what we had originally projected in spending. So everything is going fine there. You're going to see a few more exceptions as we finish out these last few months. Probably small exceptions, but as the money, as we get towards the end of the year, there's not going to be any extra money there to cover those exceptions. So if we are going over budget, in a certain line item, it might show up a little bit more, but under, we're still considerably under budget overall. Any questions?
Thank you, Tracy. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes board meeting minutes from May 8th, personnel transactions, which did include 2 retirements. I'm sorry, I wanted to note those and get their years of service.
Lynette Lowe had 40, and
Thank you.
Mr. Wolf had 21. Leon Wolf.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, as I'm scrolling. There they are, finally. So we thank those individuals for their many years of service. Approved bills in the amount of $399,003. I'm going to round up there. The petty cash report, approval of Nicole Corey as the board treasurer effective May 31st. Approval of Renee Booth as deputy board clerk effective May 31st. Approval of surplus items. I will entertain a motion for items A through G.
I'd make,
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
second?
It has been moved by Board Member Fox, seconded by Board Member Oborny. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. I guess I need to say it out loud, right? The consent agenda passes with a vote of 4-0. Next item on the agenda is new business, and the first one is Neighborhood Revitalization Plan, and I believe we have Jacob Wood joining us, Assistant City Manager.
Yeah, board members, I'm Jacob Wood, Assistant City Manager. Tonight I have an item, the update of the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan. This is something the city's been working on for a couple of months, and I will go through a short presentation here just to kind of outline what the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan is, and then why it's important for you. If you scroll down, there's actually a PowerPoint kind of at the end there. And you can go on to the next slide there. So what is the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan? Basically, it is a plan that offers property tax rebates to promote the revitalization of properties within a defined boundary. Rebates are provided based on the added value within a property. So there's a district that if you improve your house and the value becomes greater, then that property tax is rebated back to the property owner. Why that's important to you is it's not just the city's property tax, it's also the county's property tax and the school board's property tax. If you go on to the next slide there. So the current neighborhood revitalization area is outlined here in blue. This was first implemented in January of 2002. It was updated a couple times in 2003 and 2008. There's been 45 properties that have benefited from the neighborhood revitalization plan since it was established. The appraised value of the current area is $72 million, and we're actually proposing that we expand that area. You can go on to the next slide there. So you see the current area is highlighted there in blue, and then in red is what we're proposing to expand the area to. And this is the 1965, or approximately 1965 boundary of the city of Hayes. And our intent there is to expand the area so that we have properties that are older than 50 years old that will qualify for these rebates. The whole intent is to try and revitalize the area of town that has older buildings. It includes both residential and commercial properties within that. So the goal is to improve commercial properties, promote owner-occupied housing, and just to continue to revitalize that area of the community. Here's a couple of examples of things that have been done in the past. With the current program, we have single-family houses, duplexes. We have commercial properties. We have more single-family houses. We have multifamily housing. And then we have several downtown businesses that have utilized this program. So the key changes that we're proposing and that were approved by the City Commission, first we increased the area from 209 acres to 1,628. We're going to increase the minimum investment. So right now for residential properties, it's $5,000. We're going to increase that to $15,000. And for commercial properties, it's $25,000, but we'll increase that to $50,000. We're going to simplify the application process so it's easier for property owners. Establish an appeals process if we have if that's necessary, and then establish a process for delinquency. If somebody's delinquent on their property taxes, they wouldn't be eligible to participate in the program. And then we'll modify the scale on the residential from a sliding scale to a flat 65% across the board. And if you go to the next slide, I'll explain how that works. So this is just an example. Say you have a property that's worth $100,000 and you put $100,000 into it. The new value is worth $200,000, so the value added there would be $100,000. On the current plan, the sliding scale, for residential, it's 95% for the first 3 years, and then it reduces that percentage of rebate over a 10-year period. It comes out to an average of about $7,695 if you average that out over the 10-year period. That's pretty difficult for the county to administer, so we're changing that to a flat 65%, which would be about $7,877 over the life. And I will say, I didn't say this earlier, the city and the county and the school are all held harmless on this, so because you don't collect, you're not going to collect any less property tax than you do today. So it's the added value on there. So you're not, it's not going to hurt you financially. It's really just the increase that goes with it. And so the process for this is City Commission held a public hearing, and I will say we had one person from the public come and speak at that hearing, and that was your superintendent here. So we appreciate him coming to that meeting. Then we approved a resolution that updates the plan, and we'll have to take this to Ellis County and then the school board as well for approval. Since we're looking at your property taxes as well, you guys do have a say in how the process works. And I will stand for any questions. There's a resolution in your packet that was provided by the city.
Jacob, you may not know this answer, but I am curious. You said about 45 properties benefited with this earlier.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
But do you know how many, were there a number of more applications that just a few got turned down then?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe we don't turn as long as they qualify, as long as they're making improvements on the property that meets the minimum requirements, we won't turn it down. Okay. So I don't believe there's anything that we've ever turned down unless it doesn't meet
when you said you were changing the appeal process.
Well, the appeal process would be if there's somebody who doesn't believe that their value went as high as it went before, that sort of thing. So it's really about the value of the properties for the appeals.
Jacob, for those 45 properties, do you have a dollar amount that was added investment to our community?
I do have that.
Or a percentage, or?
So the total appraised value of the projects that we've done since inception of the program in 2002 has been $4.45 million. The total tax assessed value for those improvements is about $809,500. So it's been about $1 million swing. The total rebate amount for projects previously and currently in the program is about $500,000. Okay. So that would be the increased value on those properties would be about $500,000.
And is there a target or a goal you're hoping to gain with this change?
No, we don't have any. There's nothing specific as far as the goal is just to help those properties be revitalized. I mean, it's all about redevelopment in the older parts of the community. It's really a big program for commercial. You know, if you're going to do commercial work, and there's big requirements as far as the dollar amount on the commercial properties. We don't want you to go in and do a $200 fix on something and then give you a rebate on that. It's got to be a substantial project.
Okay. There are some beautiful homes in this particular outline you guys are assessing though too. I mean, they're older homes that maybe you could use some, I don't want to say fixing up, but remodeling or something else. This would be a nice opportunity for that as well. So you did a great job presenting tonight because I read through the packet twice and I still had a couple questions I couldn't understand, but you answered them just in presentation. So
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Are there any other additional questions? So do we need to entertain a motion on this resolution?
It'll
with?
be at the next meeting.
It'll be at the next meeting, okay, okay. All right,
So yes, we will.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda is the 2017-18 district-wide enrollment dates.
I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the dates are quite different and the process is different. This flyer was given out this last week, into the school year, so that the families would have as early a heads up as far as August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd with the enrollment process. Enrollment, the key here is where it's at. We know that we have families that have children in an elementary, at a middle school, and sometimes even at a high school. They may have children at 3 different buildings. So the intent was to try to make it easier on them of being able to, one place, enroll all their children instead of having to drive around and have different schedules of trying to do that. It will take an awful lot of work in the planning of it, but I do believe in one location we'd be able to have our technology people, our counselors, just all the different resources there to end up, instead of trying to spread them out between 4 different elementaries, a middle school and a high school. It took quite a bit of planning. There are other school districts that are doing this. This is not, I'd like to say that we're
Pioneers.
out in the front on this, but we're not. There's plenty of schools that are doing this at this time, large schools. But I do think that I have great faith it'll be received well by families instead of having the only negative that some people would say is that idea of not having the ability to then immediately walk around the building, you know, that part of it. But that's pretty limited anyway when you have the enrollment. So anyway, I wanted to bring it up again. This is a very important change for people to be aware of. I know that it's going to happen. I just know there's going to be individuals who's going to show up at Lincoln Elementary. They'll show up at Roosevelt. They'll show up at the middle school. But we're trying to get this out so that as many people as possible recognize that. And when we get close to August 1st, we'll try to saturate it out there again so people are aware it's at the high school. All enrollment is at the high school.
Does anything change for those that choose to enroll online?
Well, online, yes. We have made what you'd say a fast lane for enrollment, because if you've done it online, all you have to do is go through, if you wish at that point, and pay fees. So it really, we have a different line that's being created for those individuals who say, I've enrolled online, it's going to be a different line, and it should be, just as we say, a very fast line. So, good question.
Okay. And will the after-school care programs and PTAs, if they so choose, be able to come to the high school?
It's going to be very busy with different tables out in that kind of commons area in front of the gymnasium at the high school. So it'll be very busy as far as the different booths, tables that are
Right.
set up there.
But individual schools could bring their,
Yes.
okay, okay,
Yeah, we're prepared for that.
okay, okay.
Now, some may choose to, and some may just wait till a
They
little
may.
later to do some of that too, but,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great.
Along that line too, they can enroll online and pay by credit card and not even have to come to the high school. The speedy checkout is just if they'd like to pay by cash or check, then they would come into the
Thanks.
school and do that. So
Right.
that has not changed.
Okay,
And the only times that are designated have to do with the high school. So if you have a high schooler, you want to pay attention to the time, but you can come at that time and do any middle school or elementary school as well. But because of elective classes filling up, seniors get priority over than freshmen, so we do designate some times for those high school classes. But other than that, it's whenever it's convenient.
okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda under old business is the Kansas Educational Risk Management Pool, Kermit.
We do have Christy Baldazar from Assurance Partners here with us tonight.
Good evening. I believe that you have information from last month's meeting where you went over the details of your insurance program. So tonight I'm going to just give you a little bit broader perspective on the overall performance of the program. Your expiring program with Kermit, the expiring premium was $127,000 roughly, and your renewal premium in that program is down just slightly at $124,752. So that program is performing very well as it was intended. This year you recognize additional savings in the renewal of your workers' compensation. Your workers' compensation renewal is down from $146,000 last year to $132,000 this year. So that brings your total for all of your risk management program, including our fee, to $293,896 in 2016 to $277,426 in 2017. I also put together a 5-year overview, if you will, and I'm going to take you back to 2012. In 2012, you were paying overall costs of $307,000. In 2013, your costs went up to $387,000. 2014, they went up to $391,000. In 2015, we reduced them to $315,000. In 2016, we took them down to $293,000. So this year coming in at $277,000. So overall, you've experienced a 29% reduction in your costs with your approval of joining this program. And I also would tell you that it has to do with the risk management that your administrative staff is doing as well. So our role as your broker is to help you control your costs when it comes to coverage placement, but to also help you reduce administrative costs and loss costs associated with the district. And we've worked on several projects together that I just want to highlight, from a return to work program to help get any injured employee back to work as quickly as possible. From a workplace safety standpoint, we have a safety and claims investigation committee that will go back to work as school gets back in session after summer break. We've had an implementation of a slip, trip, and fall campaign to keep the staff aware of how to minimize that type of activity. We're working on job hazard analysis for your custodial and maintenance staff to make sure that they're aware of which aspects of their responsibilities can be most hazardous and how to appropriately perform those responsibilities in a safe fashion. We've also had some loss control visits at the middle school. The current program will continue to have other loss control visits as long as you're a member to really address the physical hazards that may be associated with the district buildings and locations. We've also completed accident investigation training to make certain that when an incident does occur, that there's an investigation that takes place that helps us gather information so that the safety committee can make modification that would prevent that incident from reoccurring and things. And then we have some upcoming workers' compensation awareness training for your nursing staff. Again, once that will probably fall the end of summer, early fall, where we get with your nursing staff and help them understand how to navigate workers' compensation most effectively for any of your injured employees. So those are just a few of the highlights of some of the risk management projects that your administrative staff has worked on along with members of our risk management team. And really, we're having a very good outcome as supported by the cost reduction. So. Any questions for me? All right, Tracy, was there anything else from your perspective that we needed to touch on tonight? So I think that it does require a motion.
Okay, so we have two different agenda items. The first is approving Kermit as the property casualty insurance carrier. Someone like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to accept the Kansas Education Risk Management Pool as the district's property casualty carrier for 2017-2018 in the amount of $124,752.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Board Member Oborny, seconded by Board Member Fox. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. The next item is for the workers' compensation. And so you were also speaking to this portion, right?
Yes.
And again, we discussed this 2 weeks ago in our other meeting. So this piece would be with United Heartland.
I'd make a motion to approve United Heartland as the district workers' compensation carrier for the 2017-2018 school year in the amount of $132,674.
I second it.
It's been moved by Board Member Oborny, seconded by Board Member Fox. All those in favor, please. I have not been calling for discussion, right? Sorry, guys.
That's what I was just going to ask about.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I just wanted to make sure I get more for Tracy on this. This is basically the same as far as, and if I'm not mistaken, it actually dropped just a smidge from last year. Is that correct, Tracy?
It's dropped.
It did drop.
Slightly.
Yes, yes, it did go down $13,896 less than last year.
Did you hear that?
Okay. Yes. So I was thinking it had gone down. So I was thinking that's the same one. I just wanted to verify. So.
Yes. Is there any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your material, especially the outlook, kind of a 5-year
Yeah.
where we've come and everything. It was just great.
Yeah,
numbers.
we've all made great progress in
Yeah,
that regard.
but it's always good to recap. and I
Well, to
appreciate
hear a 29% decrease is very exciting news, so thank you
Yeah,
for.
particularly in light of your budget challenges. So
Absolutely,
it's nice to be able to
absolutely.
deliver that, so nice work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next item is the Headstart Bus. Russ, would,
Well,
No.
no, really, Russ is here. If there
okay,
was
just if there's any questions,
but
okay.
I didn't know, there were no questions that came up from the last meeting. Nothing has changed in my mind as far as the need or what was described as far as us moving forward using funds that really, funds that were not planned is still going to be very limited at this point, possibly less than $10,000 that would be coming from the general fund, because there's still funds that we'd be pulling from Head Start and also from the what we had already kind of planned on transportation using. So I think it's still a very good plan to move ahead with this during the summertime and have this bus replaced before school starts.
10,000 from capital
Yeah,
outlay?
it'd be capital
Oh,
outlay,
sorry, okay,
excuse me,
okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of a replacement bus for Early Childhood Connections. Thank you for making that bigger for me, whoever did that. The Type A Collins bus in the amount of $58,381.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It
I'll
is-
second that.
It has been moved by Board Member Fox, seconded by Board Member Bickle. Is there any further discussion?
Just to clarify,
Russ, I do.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Russ, I just wanted to say also thank you for going through, because I think this is the second year now where at least this is not costing us obviously it'll cost a little bit on this, but because of the savings that you've done as far as the other buses and the other stuff, that continues to help with the rest of the budget. So.
Yeah, the rotational plan that you have in place, I think, is helping line that out a lot better. You did say that if you place the order here as quickly as you can, that it may still not be right effective at the front of school year, but you'll be able to get by for a little bit. Is that
There was
correct?
talking 2 to 3 months being built.
Okay, but
so
you're
be
prepared
real close
to
to
manage
school.
it until that comes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is the fire alarm bid.
The one item that, information you did get, Sarah was able to send that out to you, was the use of that particular company the last 10 years. We've been pleased with them, and really the number was significantly lower than the other choices that we ended up having.
Yes, that was, I think, the open question from the last time. Did we have a history with them?
Right.
And it turns out, yes, we did.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right.
I think it's wonderful to support a local company
is,
as well. I
absolutely.
mean, whenever possible.
I will entertain a motion.
I will, I move to, it's like just me and Luke here.
And Luke's got it in front of him, so.
I move to accept the bid from Fire Alarm Specialist for the inspection and testing of the district's fire alarms for the amount of $2,389.50.
Second?
Second that.
All right. It has been moved by Board Member Fox and seconded by Board Member O'Borney. He beat you to it, Lance. Is there
It's all good.
any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is the 2017 Lewis Field Football Agreement with Fort Hays.
Yeah, I want to end up sharing that at the last meeting, clearly there was a little bit of confusion that spun off of that, because even Mr. Bickle was asked some questions afterwards that really, the thought was we're looking at other possibilities because of the concealed carry issue, and that was not it at all. They are two different issues, and yes, it was talked about, but not because they're connected. We definitely have an annual agreement that exists in utilizing Fort Hays State's facilities, not just for the football field, but there's other facilities that we utilize too. In the conversation that came up about the changes that's going to happen on July 1st, where concealed carry does occur at the college level, the question was, or the statement was, that we will follow their rules. Very pleased to end up having Carrie Wassinger here representing Fort Hays State University that could speak to that briefly. If you could come forward, Carrie, thank you, and thank you so much for being here. I too was with the thought that that was just the way it would be, but there may be another option.
Yes,
Okay.
there can be. Part of the option depends upon the circumstances of it, but for example, the Lewis Field, you guys rent the entire facility. When you rent the entire facility, that becomes yours from that time to that time frame. So your exemption that you operate on as K-12 would continue for that location. Now, you would be responsible for putting the signs back up and giving ticket notification and so forth, but you wouldn't have to do the adequate security measures to do that. Does that make sense? Because you rent the entire facility. Now, the exception to that is some of the camps and the other things that happen at Memorial Union and things of that nature where you don't rent the entire facility, those would fall under
The auditorium.
our concealed carry. The auditorium at Beach Schmidt would require the same thing because you don't rent the entire facility, because I can't rent out my office.
Right.
Okay.
So that's see where the exception with that is. So there are some exceptions with that. Gross Coliseum also, because I can tell you we've been working with Kansas High School Athletic Association because they use Gross Coliseum for a large amount. Gross Coliseum is tied to Cunningham. So we are working on potential options with that and are negotiating through those, but because it's not the whole facility, and I know I did provide Mr. Jeter the copies of those letters and notifications, so he was kept in the loop to those, as well as the Attorney General letters in regards to this interpretation as well.
Very good.
But for the facilities like Lewis, where you rent the entire facility, it's just rehanging those signs.
Okay.
So that
Is it a
expense,
necessity to have any language within this agreement, or is that just understood since we're renting it?
since you're renting it, it's just understood
Okay.
according to Attorney General's letters. However, I did talk to Mr. Jeter and said if the school board is more comfortable with amending that and spelling that out, that they're going to be doing that. I don't have a problem with amending the letter, to do that. It really will not,
Yeah.
it's not much
I just want to make
different.
sure that if it's understood that we are renting it, then I don't even know why it needs to be amended.
Yeah.
If legally we're okay with that.
Yeah, and we have Attorney General letters that I've provided that do support that, that show that the entire time that you rent, and that includes the time that they rent it, because in part of that lease agreement is they get it the day before for practice if they choose. That would contain it as well for that practice time as well. Now, I do want you to be aware of is the parking lot is not part of the negotiation and lease.
Right.
Because I've got dorms that park there, but the facility itself is.
And thank you for sharing about auditorium.
Yeah,
Because
just
that
want you
was
to
a
be
big
aware.
question as well. You're right.
Yeah.
I know it's addressing Lewis Field football agreement, but the question did come up with,
Well, you guys use our facilities for several
That's right.
different things throughout, and that's why I wanted to also explain the differences between those and how that definition works.
Okay.
If the whole facility is not for those to be then we would have to put up adequate security measures if you chose to do that. However, when it's the entire facility, it's just the signage that would need to be put back up. And unfortunately, that would be your responsibility, but you could hit print off of a regular printer and hang those up.
Okay.
It doesn't require anything special beyond those. Does that answer the questions? Maybe help clarify at least a little bit?
No, it does. I appreciate that you all looked into that and were able to resolve that question for us and a concern for, I think, many. So that's
Yeah,
great news.
unfortunately, I've read it multiple times.
I
So if you have questions, trust me, unfortunately, at this point in time, I think I have it memorized. So I'd be happy to aid on that one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much, and thank you for having me.
I will entertain a motion for the Lewis football agreement.
I'd make a motion to approve the Lewis Field agreement for the 2017 Hayes High School football season in the amount of $12,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Oborny and seconded by Board Member Fox. Is there any further discussion or questions?
The only thing I would like to add is I'd like to see in the future, or even possibly going into next year or the following years, that we could possibly look into it a little bit further. I know it was talked about, but it's just as far as what kind of cost we're talking about as far as we would look at hosting some of this stuff ourselves at our own field, things like that. And obviously, I know there is significant costs involved, but I guess I would just be curious to see what some of those are or where those lay and have an idea to where if that is something we want to look at funding down the line or going through that, or we have that option.
All right. If there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And item F on the agenda is the 2017-18 board meeting calendar.
The most significant change with that calendar for everybody to look at is we have 2 months where there's a single board meeting that's identified for that month, and that would be May and June next year, this coming year. That would be the most significant change.
Do I have a motion?
And after tonight's experience, I would say that may be a good idea.
It's a rough go right now.
It is.
I'd make a motion to approve the 2017-2018 board meeting calendar as presented.
Second it.
Second.
You're too slow, man.
There you are. There's a delay. A motion has been made by Board Member Oborny and seconded again by Fox, and later by Bickle. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is any further discussion by board members or agenda request. Board Member Bickle kind of jumped it, but it sounds like we want some investigation about football stadium cost. Wow. All right. right. Is there a need for executive session tonight?
There is not.
All right.
The only point I would say with discussion is just awareness that we are coming close to the June 1st.
Yes.
And as far as having individuals who have interest in being a board member, we're still in that mode of wishing to encourage individuals to use this week to go ahead and sign up for that process.
And currently, only one has filed?
Currently.
Okay.
I guess you might add that all of our information is on the website if they needed to contact a current member, ask questions, or...
Right.
Yes. All right. If there is no further discussion, our meeting is adjourned.